Hello and welcome to another arty update. Yes, still no crafts. I think crafts are winter things really, but hey ho. It's been quite a gentle few weeks for me. I've really only been working in my sketchbooks, mostly because I've been focused on learning these Inktense pencils and partly due to another few more bad days. More on that later. Anyway, so I'll start with my Neurographic Doodle book this week, and I haven't recorded any full process this week because I've already got loads from last time that I haven't shown you yet, and they're all stacked up for August, so I hope you enjoy those. So last time I had left you and I was doing some dragonflies. I have continued doing those, but the first one that I did was some more circles. I don't really like the colours on this one, but I do like some of the concepts. So I'll probably carry that forward in future sketches in this sketchbook. More circles, not so keen on the composition, love the colours. But hey, that's what a sketchbook is about, right? It's about trying new things, trying new colours. It's not about making things perfect, as you'll see later on. This one I really enjoyed doing and I really loved. Sometimes it makes a really big difference using a marker pen for the circles or a gel pen for the circles. It gives a very different overall effect on the drawing. And yeah, for this one I just used the gel pens. I want to do some more of these. I do like these very much. Sometimes things don't work out as you planned. Not so keen on this one, but you know, it was a relaxing hour. It's fine. Oh yeah, the next relaxing hour wasn't so good either. I had started with an idea, but when I started putting the pen down on the page, it just went somewhere completely different, so yeah. Back to the dragonflies. I really like this one. I'm thinking of doing this one as a full process in the next few weeks. I've got so many to post, oh my goodness. Anyway, I really like this one. I like the colours, and I very much like the composition as well. This one was an experiment with my Inktense pencils to see if I could use them with my Neurographic art. It's fine, but what I did find was that the Inktense pencils are very, very soft. So what happens is the point disappears very quickly, and you know, there's quite a lot of little points that you need to get into on here. The other thing was, at the time I didn't have a very good paintbrush, and so I was going over the edges quite a bit, so that was slightly annoying. Another dragonfly. I did this one upside down. I don't know how that happened. I'll show you a screenshot now of it the right way up. Love the colours on this. I have used these colours on a different design in a previous sketchbook. And yeah, I really like the colours of the dragonfly. Not so keen on the background. But yeah, I'll probably use these colours with a different background at some point and see if I can, yeah, pull it together. Zentangle pattern practice. Yeah, still need a bit of practice. Back to my circles. I quite like this one. It's not quite as striking because of the colours, but it had a lot going on, so yeah, it probably could have done with a bit more embellishment around the edges, but yeah, I might develop it further, who knows. This one was an experiment that didn't seem to work out very well. So then I went on to some simpler designs. When I get quite tired, I like to do something that's a bit more simple. So that's what these next 3 pages were about. And the next 2 were ones that I had done in a previous sketchbook that I just wanted to revisit in different colours. This one was a Neurographic base with some Zentangle patterns in, and I'll show you some of the clips from me working on this at the end of this video. But what I was doing was, originally I wanted to put all of this pattern in every single section, but sometimes the shapes just don't work. sometimes you get shapes that are a bit odd. So in the end, what I ended up doing was adding 3 different patterns in this drawing. And I used my felt tip pens as well, new felt tip pens that I got. So yeah, I love the colour green in that. I'm not sure if it really shows up on the camera. It's quite a dark lighting in here today. But yeah, really like that one. That was fun to do. Lastly, this one, I really like this one as well. I love the little splashes of colour, and I've always said that a good composition, I feel, is the right balance of colour and white space and black space. And for some reason, I think this one works. I like it anyway. So I might try and recreate this one in different colours, and it's quite possible that I'll do that as a full process no chat video as well. So that's it for my Neurographic Zentangle sketchbook. I know I've done quite a lot of pages in it, but I was house sitting for a couple of days, so I had 8 hours to myself to just sit and draw, so that's what I did. So my Inktense sketchbook, I was trying to learn how to use these Inktense pencils a little bit more, and a few weeks ago I was trying to work on the foliage, and I've continued with that as well. My first attempt was pretty awful, and I tried to perk it up with a little bit of black pen over the top, and that didn't really work. And then I went on to having a go at doing some buttercups. They're quite basic, but it was quite a nice change to work on something different other than a landscape scene. And then I went back to look at the sunsets. Well, I really do wish that I could master sunsets. This was really simple. It wasn't dramatic enough. There was a lot more black in the sky, but yeah, it was just something different to take me away from the landscapes for a little while. And then I went back to drawing some churches. I've done quite a few churches and ruins in my regular sketchbook, and this time I thought I'd have a go with the Inktense pencils. Now this, I feel, is much improved on these earlier attempts, mostly because for the detail I was using a paper palette. You can just see that there. So I didn't really like the idea of using my watercolour pencils that I had on a paper palette, because I felt that was defeating the object of using the watercolour pencils. But what I found with those Shore and Marsh pencils was that the colours were just not vibrant enough when you did it that way. For this drawing, I started off using the Inktense on the page, and then I did all of the extra detail using the paper palette, which I just used the opposite side of the sketchbook here. You can just about see it there. What I found was I could mix up a tiny amount of colour, and it took out a lot of the guesswork happening on the page itself. So I could get the colour right up here, pick up the pigment and just put the detail on with that. So on the whole, I was happier with this one as opposed to these ones. However, I still felt I had a bit more to learn, so I did another one. I really do feel that this is far more improved, especially the foliage. I was very, very pleased with that. Again, I used the same process. I put flat colour down for the bulk of the areas. I built it up a little bit, and at the very end I used a paper palette here and just lifted the pigment off and put it on the page. So overall, I'm happier with this one. It's still not perfect, but I'm still learning, so I'm giving myself a break. So that's all I've done in the Inktense sketchbook, but I did do one on some watercolour paper. So I used the same process with this one. I put down various greens on this side, some greys and browns on the church, and then I used a paper palette to build up the rest of the colour. Now I only used the paper palette on the sky because these Inktense pencils are very, very vibrant, and when you lift them up off a paper palette, if you use plenty of water, then they become very pale and more like a thin watercolour wash. That's what I've figured out over the last few weeks, and I think the sky works really well. So that's all I've done with the Inktense pencils. It doesn't look like very much, but in my defence, these drawings do take quite a long time to do. I would say that this one took me about almost 2 hours, and probably the same for this one. The buttercups didn't take as long, but yeah, they do take quite a long time to do. And in some ways, using the Inktense pencils is a lot more like traditional painting, where you build up the colours, you can add extra layers, and I quite like that. And I think that's why I'm getting on better with the Inktense pencils over the watercolour paints. Yeah, I really don't know what my problem is with watercolour paints, but I just haven't managed to master anything in like 6 months of trying. But you know, that's totally fine, because this year has been all about giving things a go, and I do feel as though I've done that. In my regular sketchbook, last time I had 2 pages left, which I've completed. Another church, because when I've been having little days out at the weekends, I've been visiting lots of little country villages, and they've had rather charming churches. It wasn't great, it was just a quick sketch, and it probably only took me about 20 minutes, to be fair. And then the last page I did with my dip pen and ink. I did record this one as well. Again, I don't know if I'll publish it. Like I said, I've got a lot of videos queuing up, but maybe I'll save them for when I'm having not so good weeks, and then I won't run out. I enjoyed doing this one. I tried to make a bit more effort with the shading, and I probably spent about 45 minutes working on this, and yeah, I mean, it's fine. I quite like it, it's got a little charm, but I do feel like I need to learn a little bit more about different hatching techniques. So I might just do a few pages in my next sketchbook. Oh, okay, I haven't got a next sketchbook yet. The sketchbook saga continues. Well, I've got to get one. So even if I have to get one of those horrible ones that I've been moaning about, then yeah, I'll have to do that. But I like these Sea White of Brighton sketchbooks very much. I like the size. I like that the paper's sized as well. You do get a bit of rippling on these pages, but they just seem to work well. It's a really smooth, nice paper. Now, I might have to get another one of these Shore and Marsh sketchbooks, and recently somebody had asked me whether or not I'd found a better sketchbook. Well, for the neurographic work, this sketchbook hasn't been too bad actually. You know, I did a whole page of testing out my different mediums on the page, and I don't think it's great for the inks particularly, but it works. It's not great for the watercolour, but it works. And given that most of the pictures that I've been doing in this sketchbook have been with my gel pens, I mean this one was ink, but most of them have been gel pens and felt tip pens, and I found that the paper in this is quite soft. It's quite nice to use the gel pens on this as opposed to my previous sketchbook. And yeah, I think I have to remind myself that this is just a sketchbook. It's just a sketchbook, it's for ideas, it doesn't have to be perfect. So in regards to that, I think that if I end up having to get one of these Shore and Marsh sketchbooks in an A5 size for my regular sketchbook, I'm just going to have to go with it. But I'm still very, very cross with Hobbycraft. You never know, they might have got some more of these in stock, people might have complained. I don't know, we shall see. So that's all the progress that I've made. It really doesn't look like much. I've done quite a lot in my Neurographic Sketchbook though, so you know, that's indicative of just, you know, all those days sat around doing nothing, feeling a bit grotty, and also because I was house sitting for a couple of days. So I've already mentioned at the start that I've had a few bad days, and it is my own fault because I overdid it. On Sunday I attempted some gardening. I did about 20 minutes in the garden, and it was stupid of me because it then left me feeling like rubbish for the next 4 days. But the thing is, I haven't been out in the garden to do anything all year, and some of the weeds were taller than me, and I'm not kidding, and they were starting to seed, so I needed to trim them down, and that's what I did. I didn't pull them up, I just trimmed them down just to temporarily stop the seeds from spreading. Anyway, what happened was, after doing that, I was completely worn out, and for the next few days I started getting this feeling that I was coming down with a flu, except it's not the flu, that's just what happens when I overdo it. I get really tired in my head, my eyes, my body, everything has kind of like low-grade aches and pains. So, you know, that's lasted 4 days now, and even though I was still able to draw, I have had to have several early nights and yeah, just sitting resting, and naps in the afternoon as well. So, you know, I don't want to play the poor me card, because this illness that I've got, on a day-to-day basis, I can function if I take it steady and I don't do too much. That's how I keep it under control. I mean, physically, my upper body strength is pretty rubbish. My arms ache after ironing just a couple of shirts. So, yeah. I would just like to say thank you for everyone that's left me lovely little comments recently, and I just want to assure you that usually I know my limits, and sitting under a camera drawing for 1 or 2 hours a week, that gives me something to focus on other than how I'm feeling. But occasionally things like the gardening do need to be done, and events need to be attended, and on those days, you know, I can tend to overdo it. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Linda. Thank you, Linda. She got me my first coffee on Buy Me a Coffee, and I was just so touched by that. I'd woken up that morning, I'd had a really bad night's sleep, and I felt in my body that I'd lost at a wrestling match overnight, and that was just such a lovely start to the day. So, and it's, yeah, just such a lovely gesture. So genuinely, thank you. That meant so much to me. So yeah, that is about it. I'd just like to thank you all for watching and getting this far through the video. If you have made it this far, do give me a thumbs up, because your support is genuinely gratefully received. And do leave me a comment if you've got any questions or tips or tricks to share with me or with anyone else. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time, and until then, I hope you have a good few creative weeks.